human resources, make sure they stay in the human resources area. You know, if it's planning, urban planning, transportation planning, you know, make sure they stay in that particular area. That's one of the key things. But I think in terms of eliminating that, that war story deal, you have to rely on students. Department chairs have to take responsibility of going in and evaluating what's happening in their classroom, looking at what skills and knowledge sets those students are bringing out of their classroom. But that's very real. Yes, sir.
What about when you have situations where the chair of the department cannot get the full-time faculty to do certain things, and it's that adjunct that everybody seems to kick around that fills that void? And I've been an adjunct for 33 years, and I've been in that situation. The chair comes to you and says, can you teach another class? Because the full-time person either refuses. I've been a thesis advisor because the full-time faculty person doesn't want to do it, so they defer it to the adjuncts. So in that case, what do you do? Because it's not just about war stories. I mean, adjuncts have been used, and they have no tenure. They don't have, half the time they get paid late, and it just goes, no one wants to talk about that. So yeah, there are war stories, but there's also stories where adjuncts are doing the work of so-called full-time faculty who are tenured. And I wish you would address that.
Yeah.
So we can be even here.
Let me address it from my role as chancellor of the university. And to me, that's a problem that should be addressed by the department chair. I mean, that's a lack of leadership. If I'm talking from my position as chancellor, I think that's a lack of leadership. I'm faced with, and I've got these calls, I've got these emails, adjuncts saying I'm being asked to do this and being asked to do that. And if I'm doing all this, why am I not a full-time tenure track person? If I'm teaching 3 courses, but I'm supposed to be an adjunct, if I'm being asked to at least sit on committees, or they shouldn't be chaired, depending on what their status is and what kind of review they've had before graduate council in terms of what they really are able to do. But I think that becomes not the fault of the adjunct, but the fault of the leadership of the program. It's easy for me to sit back right now as chancellor, easy to sit back and I call them the provost and I say, look, you got to straighten that out, clean it up, but you got to do something about that, because that doesn't work. There are certain things that when we were talking to, certain things that, well, full-time faculty doesn't want to do it. Well, why? Why not? And if a full-time faculty is not performing in terms of course loads and those other responsibilities in terms of assignments, thesis advisement, then you have to take some action against those. And I'll tell you why this is important. This goes back to the discussion I had before we came in, right? It does come back to that discussion. I was, and I'll go ahead and I'll give a general idea of what our discussion was, and then you probably come in. We went through my university, when I walked in, I talked about the financial problems that we had. Very serious financial problems. So we declared financial exigency. We declared it, and I tried to do everything I could to avoid it, because our fiscal year started July 1. My board did not declare exigency or approve the declaration of exigency until October, which is 3 months into the fiscal year, which exacerbated the problem tremendously, because then it took him a longer period of time to effect the necessary changes that had to do to come up with a balanced budget. But what we were faced with at the university is that we realized that probably 70-75% of our faculty were tenured. Now, I know this is a touchy subject, but for me, in terms of balancing the budget, I had staff that had been furloughed for 2 years, 5% furloughs for the past 2 years, no raises. We had budget meetings with the faculty senate president in the middle of the budget meeting. Faculty senate president said, well, we're willing to accept our responsibilities, because at some point I'm saying, I've touched everything I have at the university, but I haven't touched faculty. You know, and our enrollment has declined over the past 3 or 4 years. You know, but I can't continue to cut everything else and not address faculty. So, you know, the response was that, I'll get to the response real quickly, was that, well, we'll take a volunteer furlough. I said, okay, that's right. Because the only other way I could do it was through exigency. I could not furlough full-time faculty without exigency. The volunteer furlough thing didn't work, to be honest with you. We needed about a 90% participation. We got 60, and when 60% said they would and 30% said they would not, 60% that said they would said they didn't want to do it because the other 30% weren't. So they were trying to back out of it. And so we weren't going to realize these efficiencies. So we went in with a exigency, we furloughed, we reduced faculty, we wound up laying off probably, I think it was something less than 19 that actually were laid off. Some resigned, some retired. We had some retirement incentive packages. But the discussion that we had right outside the hall was that how do we determine that? And at that point, we relied on chairs and deans. We established certain criteria for qualification, but we looked at student credit hours generated, we look at course loads, we look at productivity, we look at what we're doing to support the university, what you're doing to support your department. And then we relied on the chairs and deans to sort of give us this idea of who it is on your, if you have to reduce your faculty by one person, give us that idea of who that is. We didn't go in and say just the, most junior faculty. I mean, if it's a tenure track person, basically just about, we gave them the opportunity to look at a tenure track person and make a determination of how critical that person was, if they hadn't earned tenure. And there were some cases that there were tenured faculty members that deans and chairs said they are just really not living up to what they needed to do in the department. So those are some of the things that eventually, as administrators, we have to look at. You had a question, I'm sorry, because I went on.
I wanted to address the corporatization issue.
Okay.
A lot of schools, particularly in the South, are now privatizing through companies that are going to be actually delivering internet training or distance learning, hiring faculty, which is going to really erode the credibility of these institutions. By the full-time faculty not really taking, this is what I hear, the full-time faculty not being able to take a stand because a number of them, of course, still have not embraced distance learning. And it's going to really have a serious effect on the future faculty. The younger faculty coming in. We're no longer going to see as many full-time faculty being appointed because of this corporatization issue. And I was wondering if you can address that. Is that a serious issue? And if it is, what do you suggest to a group like this? What should be our course of action?
I'm not sure I would characterize it as corporatization. I think how many of you are in an institution that doesn't offer an online course right now, an online degree? All right. It's here. Yeah. It's here. So the question is how do you do it? So I'm not sure that the online and distance learning is corporatization. Different universities do it different ways. We shared in our conversation with you at my university, when I came in, I'm part of a system. It's a small system, but we have, I had the Baton Rouge campus is our flagship campus. We have a campus in New York and a campus in Shreveport. A 2-year campus in Shreveport, 4-year campus in New Orleans. But the system had signed a contract. We had to go to online programs. And when I say you have to go to online programs, there are two reasons you go to online programs. First one is primarily revenue generating. It's bottom line. I came in and, you know, if I'm looking at the $10 billion budget reduction, and I know that the state is not going to give me any more money for the next few years, then my next option is how do I develop revenue? And you know, I develop revenue either through increasing my student enrollment, which is also an issue, or looking at how do I generate it through other sources. So most universities look at online courses as necessary. I don't want to call it necessary evil. I think it's a trend. Well, I think it's past a trend. I think it's becoming something that every university now feels that they have to do in order to keep up with what everybody else is doing. You know, it's being competitive. And so the question is, how do you do it? How do you do it effectively? And how do you do it so that you don't dilute the quality of the programs that you have, that you don't become just a degree mill, if you will, and do it in a manner that still maintains the credibility of the programs. One of the programs we currently have 2. We've just been approved for 4 more, so we probably have, by August, we may have about 6 or 7 degree programs offered online. Not a lot, not a high enrollment because we're still working through all of the process, and we have this contract with a company that's supposed to be doing the recruiting for us, taking in the applications, giving us the application, and saying, okay. Their idea is that they want to make a lot of money off it, you know. Now, I'm fine with that. If I'm making money too, if I'm not making money, you making all the money, I have a problem with that. So we're working that issue out. But as it grows, then you're faced with a decision as to who's going to teach the course. I find that most of, as I go to these departments, most of the time it's the junior faculty that are willing to take on those online courses, that embrace the technology, embrace that method of instruction. And in a lot of cases, we're already doing them. Most of us are teaching courses online, 1 or 2 courses online anyway, but it's a whole different matter when you put the degree online. Okay? And then you're going, and then you recruit at a national level. The companies that do that say, well, we have this whole pool of adjuncts, qualified adjuncts, that if you don't have the resources to deliver the courses at the university level, then we'll provide the adjuncts for it. We have not gotten to that point yet. Right now, all of our courses are being taught by full-time faculty. We may get close to it soon. What our faculty, what my chairs and deans are telling me is that we want to make sure that anybody that they tried it once, they submitted resumes to us, they have this whole pool of adjunct people teaching online courses. You have to monitor very closely. We will not allow that company to select an adjunct person. That company can refer someone to us. We present it to the faculty. Faculty review. The faculty then approve that person's credentials, and if it's a graduate course, we send that to our graduate council. But all of that has to go through our process at the university before we determine that this person is qualified to be an adjunct to teach this online course. So I think you have to be careful if you let these companies that are doing it just say, well, we'll have the adjunct, all we need is your name, then I think you run into some serious problems. But I don't think you can get around the online piece now. I mean, I'm looking at, in Baton Rouge, I'm turning on my TV now, and is anyone here from, is it southern New Hampshire? Yeah. I mean, I'm seeing ads for southern New Hampshire, constantly in my area. I had one of our former, actually he's a former dean, retired, he's been teaching as an adjunct. He came to see me, he said, I'm teaching for southern New Hampshire now, teaching 2 courses for them. Now, I know he's highly qualified. I don't think anybody can question his credentials, but that's how pervasive the whole online education market is right now, where it's going. We have to be very careful with it. I mean, the universities get caught up, or the leadership of the universities get caught up with how much revenue it's going to generate and get us out of these budget holes that we're in. So we have to be extremely careful. And I think what's happening is that so many universities are doing it, that it's not going to generate the revenue that we think it will. It used to be all Phoenix, Kaplan, Capella. It used to be all of these, and we thought we were competing with them. Now we're competing with every other university in the state and the region. Phoenix is shutting down sites. They're feeling the impact of it. So it's difficult to balance. Did I answer your question?
Yes, you did.
Okay. Yes, sir.
I'm from Grambling, Louisiana. And
We want to get into the fact that we beat them in football.
But you did that.
well, that's why I mentioned it. But I know you're familiar with the discussion that has been there with the collaborative teaching on online courses, where they're trying to find expertise from various campuses and relate that particular campus within the system, offer a course, and all other students from other campuses.
Yeah, that's within your system, the University of Louisiana system. In Louisiana, we have 3 systems. We actually have 4 boards. We have 3 systems. We have an LSU system, Southern system, which I'm in, and then a University of Louisiana system, Grambling University. He's in the University of Louisiana system. So their system is coming up with a process, if you will, of the online courses and incorporating the entire, how many campuses do you have? 7, 8? 7 campuses in that system in terms of offering those courses and being able to I guess, spread out the instruction and giving faculty in each of those institutions an opportunity to provide these courses. So a person can take a degree from the, and take courses in any one of your institutions. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. So I'm asking in terms of quality or maintaining the quality of
Quality.
right. Who is going to be in charge?
Who's I don't know who's going to be in charge of your system. But I think it's in that particular model, first of all, the chancellors on each campus have to monitor the quality of course they're teaching. Then I think it's a system head who has to make sure that you have to look at the faculty that are teaching the course. You have to look at the content. You have to monitor it. I mean, this is I never taught an online course. And if you ask me to go in now and try to develop one, I wouldn't know what to do. All right. The feedback I've gotten is that it's not easy. How many of you teach online courses? All right. So I get that it's not easy. You can have a lot of courses. In order to monitor the participation by the students. And a lot of these companies that are coming in and say, well, we're monitoring it. We're going to make sure that we keep track of the students as they're logging in, faculty if they're logging in, are students doing what they're supposed to be doing. Those of you, I know we're in Southern Association of Colleges and Schools for Accreditation. They've just passed new guidelines, new standards related to online education that puts the burden on universities to ensure the quality of that education and the integrity of the education, the coursework that's being delivered, making sure that you know that the person that's taking the exam is the person that's actually registered. So that, this thing is going, I think, change significantly over the next few years. but it's going to require a lot of effort on the university's part to ensure that we maintain the integrity of the institutions. It's, you know, I'm in a battle with, not a battle, I'm in a disagreement because I want to take it a little bit slower than some of my system people want to. You know, I said, well, we got to keep putting these degrees online. We got to keep bringing in students, and we got to generate revenue. But I've been criticized for being a little bit slow in getting that done. But I just don't want to rush into something that I think may hurt us in the terms of the quality of the programs that we do.
Thank you very much, Dr. Llorens, for your insight. And I just wanted to announce that our sessions will start at 2:30, the next concurrent sessions. So a half an hour break. Feel free to finish your lunch, mingle, ask any questions directly to Dr. Llorens. And we'll see you in about 35 minutes. Thank you. Dr. Nufrio, didn't you have something to announce about this symposium?
Just an announcement again. I made this announcement yesterday at the opening plenary. If anybody has a paper that they're in the process of producing, either as a participant or even as an observer that ties into the theme of this conference, please email me and or Gleb. We're looking to do a peer-reviewed symposium in the Journal of Public Administration Education. And from what someone told me, they really are trying to push empirical research. So the more empirical the paper is, probably the greater the likelihood of it being accepted, although we're going to try to also work with JPAE and prove to also have some case studies too.